And like I've been doing in the previous stills as well, I'm going to be using the same technique to remove any dust and imperfections in some of the larger areas to sort of save myself some time. And that way I can really focus on some of the larger imperfections, and I can just get rid of all of the dust and particles pretty quickly. And to do that, again, we'll go to Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches. And typically I like to keep it around 8 pixels, the threshold of 5, and I hit OK. Now I'm going to do the rest of the sections on all of these props here. And you want to make sure that you're not selecting any rough edges here, because it can start to look a little funky if you try to use this method on those areas. Okay, so now that we've finished retouching all of the props and the products, the last thing that I want to do here for retouching and fixing up the products is this little SOS spray. Looks a little bit off-center to me, so I'm just going to double check and see if it's something that I need to fix. I'll go ahead and drag a guide. And right there, you can tell that it's a little bit off center. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the whole thing. Do a pretty big selection here. I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to use the transform tool. I'll start with skew and I'll start moving it over. And then I'll also use the warp tool to sort of fix this edge here. And I'm just going to mask out the parts that I don't want. So I'll go ahead and add a mask to that. And using a soft brush, I'll start painting it on the sides. Now I'll go ahead and remove those guides out of the way. And now that looks pretty good. Just needed a little bit of a rotation there. And so I'm just going to go ahead and merge that down to my clean layer. And now what I'm going to do next is fix up some of the colors of the props. And so I do have my Tower 28 colors set up in this image already, so I can quickly get my eyedropper tool and select the color that I need. So I'll start with the purple here. And using the same techniques that I used in the previous stills, I'm going to just use the selection tool, the magic wand tool, to grab all of this color here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a select mask. Go ahead and smooth out the selection, feather it a little bit, and up the radius here so that it knows exactly what to select here. And at the same time, I'll use the Refine Edge Brush tool to sort of grab any remaining purple from the prop. And now, like I did in the previous still, I'll do a layer, adjustment layer, levels. And I'm going to bring up that middle slider over here to the left. I'm going to bring it over. Now that looks a lot more like what I'm going for. And like we did in the previous still, I'm going to go ahead and select that selection once again. And I'm going to do a fill layer with the solid color. And we've got that purple color right there from the Tower 28 color. And I'm going to change the blending mode to color. And I'll go ahead and rename these. I'll group them together and I'll call this wavy prop. And I'm not going to worry too much about this other wavy prop here because it already looks pretty close to the colors. So I'll leave it as is, but I do want to fix this one right here because it's supposed to be a little bit more closer to this color here. And I'll go ahead and do an adjustment layer as well, levels. Make another new fill layer, solid color, and I'll fill it with that color that I just selected and change the blending mode to color. I'm going to bring down the opacity of both of these guys to 65%. Now that looks really awesome. Now that looks a lot more seamless. You know, the colors are really coming together. And now we're going to fix the background as well. We're going to change the color a little bit to match that tomato red and bring up this cream color down over here. The next thing that I want to do is apply a overall adjustment layer to our entire image. I'm going to bring it down underneath these colors here. And go ahead and bring this in. I'm not too worried about this section, of course, because we're going to get cropped off anyway. So let's go ahead and do another select and mask. Smooth out that selection, feather it out a little bit, and adjust our radius. I may have to go in later and remove some of the color on here because, you know, it seems to be the same color as our background. So I'll go ahead and fix that once we get to the mask portion, but I'll go ahead and hit OK for now. And I want to turn on my color layer, grab that tomato red color again. And once again, do a new fill layer, solid color. And now I want to bring that down to about 65% because I do want to retain some of that texture. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove some of this color here that I don't want. And while having the layer mask selected, I'm going to grab this brush right here using a black soft brush. I'm going to go in here and remove some of this color here. Something that I noticed here as well is the tower logo on this one product is looking a little funky, and so I want to fix that. Okay, that looks pretty good, and I'm also just gonna lightly bring back some of the texture in here. I don't want to go overboard, so I'll keep the opacity fairly low. Now it's time to fix up this background over here. So I'll turn off these colors here, and then I will go ahead and select this entire backdrop right here. I don't want to include these little bits, so I'll go ahead and remove that. And I'll go ahead and refine the selection once again. I'll smooth it out, feather it a little bit, and just up the radius here. And I'm going to do a layer, a levels adjustment. I'm going to bring it up here. Now that looks a lot more seamless and put together. But I do want to do some additional adjustments, including dodging and burning and sharpening. So let's get to that. So I'll go ahead and duplicate this clean layer, call it dodge and burn. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to brighten up this shadow that's being created by our background. So I'll go ahead and use the dodge tool, change the range to shadows. And now I'll go ahead and go in here and start brightening up the shadow here. All right, so now it's time to do some dodging and burning to our products. And so I always like to give a little bit of a boost using the dodge tool. And sometimes I'll have to change from highlights to midtones to really make a difference. Now I'll go in here to some of the lip glosses, really bring this packaging out. And something that I just noticed right now as well about some of our lip glosses is that they don't all look like they're filled here up at the top, and so I might go back in to adjust that and make an additional clean layer to fix that. But for now, I'll continue to dodge, and I might want to actually bring up some of these shadows as well on the prop itself. So now I'm going to make one additional clean layer, and this is for the lip glosses to look more filled. So what I'll be doing here is using a really soft brush to sort of fill in these little bits here. Now that looks a lot better, and the lip glosses look like they're actually full. I always like to, turn off the layers just to make sure everything looks good. And now we're ready to sharpen our image and then go into cropping. So I'll go ahead and duplicate that layer again. Repeat the same high pass sharpening method I've been using for all images. High pass 1.5 pixels, and I'll change the blending mode to linear light. And that immediately brings the texture and the detail out of all of the props, all the products, everything. We can place that little header overlay and just kind of have a look and see how things look. So now it's time to crop our image and we will be ready for exporting. As you know, we have our little header overlay, and I just want to go ahead and remove these guides to just see what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and move it back, and I'm going to crop this to those dimensions here. And I'm going to clear these guides. So now we're ready for export, and we'll do the Save for Web option. And I want to make sure that I'm still keeping the same dimensions that Tower 28 uses for their website headers, which is 2550 by 956. I'll lower the quality just a tad. And I'm going to call this a still 3. Now let's take a look at all 3 of our final images. And here are the final 3 images from our Tower 28 photo shoot. You can tell that we really put an effort into making this a cohesive shoot by selecting the right colors and the right props that sort of embody the California cool and flowy vibe that Tower 28 has in their branding. And so, you know, the repetition of the colors and the squiggles, the waves, and some of the props really help to bring the shoot together.
I just took you through my retouching process in Adobe Photoshop, and in this next lesson, we're going to be talking about how you can share your work online.